Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Untangle Tech Talk series. Today we'll be discussing the upgrade process from NG Firewall version 9.x to our newest, latest, and greatest version, version 11.2. My name is Shannon Miles. I'm part of the product marketing team here, and I'll be your host today. I also have with us John Coffin, our Director of QA, and he'll be demonstrating the upgrade and answering questions along the way. Next slide, please. All right, so before we get started, just a few housekeeping rules. If you have any audio issues, please just use the audio panel on the right-hand side to select your preference. If you select to use a phone, you will need to dial in and use the access code that's provided. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you will have the option to rewatch and revisit areas that you will need to follow up on. We'll be answering questions throughout the presentation, so please submit any questions you have through the Q&A box. And as always, you can send questions to sales or support@untangle.com. Now, before I move forward, I just want to reiterate that this is a very highly technical webinar. So if you're not familiar with the Untangle solution or networking concepts, I suggest you take a look at our other webinar series, our 101 series that covers more high-level topics. And you can find a full list of our upcoming webinars on our website. And with that, I will pass it to John.
Well, hi, and thanks to everyone for joining. I know this is a little bit of a painful upgrade just because there's not a one-button upgrade. There's a couple of reasons for this. The network architecture has completely been rewritten from scratch. There's a couple things that we had to do in order to get a lot of the new networking areas integrated in. And unfortunately, the main problem is not the underlying Linux underneath. It's that a lot of the network settings are not one-to-one. So creating a automated conversion was probably next to impossible. The networks out there range from the very simple to completely complex, multiple LANs with incoming routers. So it's very difficult to create a script in that. The good thing is we do have complete auto upgrades from version 10 going forward. So, this is kind of a one-time thing, and it's probably the first time we've ever had to do this. Some of the differences. I kind of use version 10 and version 11.2 integrate interchangeably. 9.4 to 10 there's no upgrade in that. If you're doing the conversion at this point where you're on 9.4, you might as well skip 10 and 11 and go straight to 11.2. It's the newest release. We've done huge things with the reporting. It's well worth it just to go ahead and skip the earlier versions. If you do want to use 10, you're fine. You can upgrade at any point later on. Some of the differences. Biggest thing is we now have VLAN support, which a lot of people have asked for. That in itself was one of the biggest reasons we had to do a complete architecture change. Also, we have wireless support. Everybody's been asking for wireless. It's very well integrated. Basically, it acts like a different interface. We have IPv6 support. Version 10 was initially where we would allow some IPv6 changes. As we're rolling out newer versions, we get more and more support. The latest 11.2 actually allows you to do firewall rules in the network layer for IPv6, not at the firewall app, but inside networking you can actually do IPv6 filter rules. DHCP is now configurable by interface. Before you had to add all kinds of cryptic DHCP setting changes to get it to work with each interface. No longer. We actually have interfaces, and I'll go through that. The other part is there's still a lot of people using PPOE from 10.0 up. Much better support. We rarely get any compatibility problems now with PPOE modems. And there's a lot more. I would suggest going through the changelog. We have it on the wiki. The link shown here is for 10.0, but we actually have a changelog for each version going forward. Let's go to the next slide. Best practices. The easiest way to upgrade is to call Untangle and see about getting set up with professional services. And we'll actually go and create the different, will actually enable you to upgrade seamlessly from 11.4 to 10.0 by manually doing the setting changes for you. It makes it a lot easier. There's some costs involved. Katie later on will be able to answer your questions as long as it's professional services. Otherwise, if you want to do the upgrade yourself, there's one of the best ways that I know how to do it is you have your existing box and then you create a new box. For a lot of people, they've been running their hardware for quite some time. Might be a good time to replace hard drives, maybe get a new box with better capabilities to match what you would want, especially if you're looking to add wireless. So that's the best way. That way you have the two boxes there, and then you just manually transfer the settings and then swap out the boxes and you're ready to go. Another way is with screen capture of the settings. I've gone through and just did screenshots of each of the settings. There's quite a few. I think you'll end up right around 26 screenshots of all the different settings. Someone actually suggested this to me. What they did was they did video capture, and they just clicked through each of the settings windows, and then when they went back, they were able to pause at which settings they were working on, and then just continue the tape to the next point. So there's a couple of different ways. Screenshots, definitely pretty easy, straightforward to do. Now we'll go through some of the network interface differences. I have kind of set up one of each so we can look at these settings. First of all, we'll look at 9.4. And if we look at network settings, first thing you'll notice is there you have to go inside each one to actually figure out what the IP address is. Another thing is you'll notice you actually only have one DHCP settings for all your internal interfaces, which is the reason a lot of people had to use all these DHCP options and so forth. On 11 or 10, depending on which one you're going to use, it's a lot easier to use. First of all your interfaces show their IP addresses on the outside, so it's a lot easier. The other thing is you can actually rename your interfaces, anything you want, so it's a little more understanding of what you're going through. For example, I can say this is my second WAN and so forth. Just change the settings right here and go second WAN. And it makes it really easy to understand what you're doing. The other interesting item is that DHCP settings are actually integrated into each interface. So I can have a different range put in directly. Also, a lot of people will need DNS override because, for example, they're running a Windows domain server and they want their clients actually to do DHCP lookups against the Windows server. You can actually type the Windows server IP address in here, or if you have multiple ones, multiple IP addresses. Instead of before where you had to put these complicated DHCP options, it would be like enable 6 and then the value, and you have to give it a time limit. We've made it much easier. It's in the GUI. It's much more clear, a lot easier. Also one interesting aspect for those who are looking for high availability, Version 10 on allows you to do VRP. If you don't know what VRP is, it's a way of automatically switching through multiple entangles. Your traffic will only go through one entangle, but it's a kind of a community of untangles will take a poll and decide if the master is down, it will switch all traffic automatically to one of the other entangles. It's completely seamless. I've done tests with this, of literally unplugging an entangle, and my Windows connection didn't even pause when that happened. So it's a very useful option that you don't have in 9.4. A lot of the setups I have required high availability, so I'll have even 2 or 3 untangles that are running in parallel, and all the traffic will go through one, and when it's down, it'll switch to the other one. Very nice feature of 10 or higher. Another network setting difference is on port forwards. We now have a simple rule generation, which makes it easier to create simple rules for port forwards, like if you need access to a particular Windows machine for the RSP. You don't have to have all the cumbersome rules. It actually walks you through it. So as you can see, there's a lot of changes. That's what makes the conversion much more difficult to do an automatic upgrade. Excuse me. Another thing to look at is that by default, SSH is on. So that means from the internal network, you can access the box with SSH. Before, it was purposely turned off. You had to actually go to the command line to turn it on. Now it's on by default. We don't find that a security risk since it's only on the internal network. In this case, you can actually turn on access to SSH from the external by enabling it over here. So one of the features that a lot of people ask is the ability to enable SSH through the GUI. So that's added here. A couple of things here. Also with the 11.2, you can actually log bypass sessions, which was not available in 9.4. A couple things here. The other part of 10 or 11 that's different is OpenVPN. There's quite a few changes to this. First of all, the new version of when you convert to 10.0, you will have to upgrade all your VPN clients with new downloads. Excuse me. The version is new and it acts a lot differently. What's different from 9.4 is that OpenVPN can now be a client and a server at the same time. To kind of put this in perspective is that you can have clients VPN to your box, and the box can in turn be a client of a site-to-site. So before you could only choose one or the other. Now it's very easy to have both server and client configurations for OpenVPN. Because a lot of times you're at a satellite office, it in turn needs to connect to the main office, but the people at the satellite office need to open VPN into the satellite office. Now you can do both with the same untangle. The other difference is that clients coming into OpenVPN are NATed. So there is a layer of protection between the person's laptop and the office. That will make some minor changes. The exported networks is now in a separate tab. That's another difference. And you can't have multiple clients as before. Some of the other areas is that if, for example, if you have multiple sites using 9.4 OpenVPN for site-to-site, you can upgrade one at a time because we made 9.4 and 10.0 OpenVPN compatible with each other. So it allows you to connect to both until you get them all upgraded. A couple of features which are not in 10 is you can no longer scan POP and IMAP. The reason we went to that, there are almost no ISPs anymore that support unencrypted POP or IMAP. Most ISPs have gone to encrypted POP and IMAP, and they don't. That encryption does not allow scanning virus filters on those. So there wasn't much any reason to filter those anymore. A couple other things that the other thing is intrusion prevention has been rewritten. It's now a service, so it covers all your racks, and it's also built directly on Snort. So the Snort rules are automatically updated. It provides a lot better level of intrusion prevention than the previous version. That's some of the big differences between 9.4. Let me see if I can get to some of these questions. Let's see here. Anyway, let's see. OpenVPN actually will utilize all the WANs you have, but it works on a round robin. So when the OpenVPN client is generated and then you download that and install that on the client desktop, it will actually list all your WANs in there, and it will connect to the first one that's available. Generally what happens is it'll connect to your main one. If it can't connect to that, it will connect to the secondary. How's the conversion? Yeah, it says here, do I need to stand up a new Untangle version 11 next to the early version? You can do it two ways. I generally put them side by side and just copy the settings back and forth. That usually works pretty well for me. I have done it with screenshots. My suggestion is if you do have a second box that you can put version 11 on, I would have that second version up and running and then transfer the settings and then just physically transfer the boxes into the network configuration. Let's see here. Maximum amount of OpenVPN clients. Technically, there's no limit. Mainly, it's due to your hardware limitations. There's a small amount of memory that's required for each VPN client. So you pretty much have to kind of see how much memory is taken up by 10 or 20, and then multiply that out, depending on how many VPN clients you want to use. Support for guest VLANs. Guest VLANs is more of a wireless feature, but you can in turn use that to create a specific VLAN tag on a wireless device and have those go through a different rack. So that is supported. You can only authenticate using AD or local or radius. You can't use them all, unfortunately. OpenVPN certificates from NOT are not usable on 11. You will actually have to generate new OpenVPN certificates for each of the clients once you move over to 11. Let's see here. What else? There has been some talk about the forum. In fact, that's my one of my next slides about methods not to use. So backup and restore definitely will not work. In fact, we look for that and we'll give you an error. There's been some talk on the forums for import and export of the settings. We've had the problem you have with that, it will accept it, but your box will be in some strange state. And we've had some really odd bugs and odd features come up that we strongly recommend not doing import and export. You'll end up with some weird issues. We've had some upgrades that didn't take because some of the settings were not in the right state. So I would avoid that as much as possible. Let's see. Let's see. SSH on a different. We don't remember. No, SSH is on a typical port 22, so that has not changed. If you want SSH on a different port, what I would recommend is creating a port forward, or just using OpenVPN to VPN into the box and then get to SSH. I would not recommend leaving SSH open out to the public. It really depends on the strength of your password. Let's see, any more questions here? Katie, did you want to talk about professional services?
I can handle that, John. So yeah, hopefully, I know we're getting a lot of questions in. We have been sending out email notifications for the last 6 months or so for those of you on 9.4 that this will be ending, support will be ending on September 15th. So if you haven't upgraded yet, which I'm assuming most of you haven't if you're on this webinar, we do offer professional services that we've been mentioning. You can look on our website. We have a conversion service that will help you with this process and make sure that everything runs smoothly and is transferred accordingly. Let's see. We're getting some more questions in. Yes, the webinar will be is being recorded, so we will send out a link after the webinar has ended. You can also look on our YouTube channel for all other recordings. John, do you have any other questions you want to answer?
No, I think I've tried to cover most of them. Like again, I'm on the forums, so definitely post your questions to the forums. I will be glad to answer it. I'm usually on there way too much. So,
all right. Can you go to the next slide? Next slide, John.
Sorry.
It's okay. So yeah, I know this was a lot of information, so we do have a lot of resources available for you. Again, sales@untangle.com, support@untangle.com, as John mentioned. We have the forums, we have the wiki, so there's a lot of information out there. You can ask questions, see how other people have done it, and get answers from our staff here. In case you're not aware, 11.2 is our newest version that was released last week, and in it we have a new reporting engine. So next month, on the 22nd of September, we are having a dedicated webinar on this new reporting engine. So if you're interested in that, please register for that. And again, if you have any questions, please just email us or contact us. We'd be happy to help you. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day, everyone.